Good morning. I'm back again with another part to my parental alienation story. I'm trying to get it out, and so this is the way it's coming out. So today, I want to talk about the fact that I didn't just give up. So he took the kids, or the court gave him the children temporarily. During that time, so I'll rewind. So while we were fighting in court, he was not helping me financially at all. So I had to set my life up where I could afford to live and take care of my children on my sole income, which at the time, I was early in my, career, you would call it. I wasn't making that much money. So I applied for subsidized housing. And probably about 2 years into our going back and forth, I got into subsidized housing. So my rent was fairly cheap. And life was not as much of a struggle when that happened for me. But when he got temporary custody of the kids, I think that exact same day that they gave him that order, he called the people that where I lived to let them know that I didn't have my kids anymore. And so that changed my situation. And so I ended up having to move from there. I moved in with my family, with my father's family. And, of course, I'm very depressed at this time because I couldn't even believe that this even happened. And so my father lived probably about an hour away from where he lived with the kids. So I had to travel that far to even see the kids on the weekends that I had. So that made it difficult. And then, like I explained before, whenever we would meet for these exchanges, he would make it very difficult for me. He'd cause chaos, which would result sometimes even in violence. So and then he just started doing other things, trying to just destroy me, because he wasn't satisfied with just being able to have the children. So when I decided to leave the country and move to Kansas City, it was to get away from him. And then when he stopped allowing me to speak to my children, I didn't just give up. The one good thing this judge did is that when she gave him the temporary custody, she also said that I can have access to their school records, doctors, and all of that stuff. So I had that in writing, in an order. So I couldn't find him, and he intentionally did not have a phone, so I couldn't call. So there was no phone to call. I would call his family members, his mother, specifically because I know my children spent a lot of time there, and she would never let me speak to them. Every time I called, they were at the park. It didn't matter what time I called. They were either sleeping at the park, they were doing something. So he didn't have a phone, so the only access I had is through their school. So that's what I would do. I would call the school. I would get their school records. I would try to be involved in their life somehow through the school. I know the school, so I'll say this too. When you are a mother who's lost access to her children, there's a stigma attached to that where people just start treating you with disrespect because they assume that you had to have done something very horrible for that to have happened. So they may assume that you were a drug addict, or you were had a substance abuse issue, or a criminal, something very terrible, because why would a mother lose access to her children if she was a good mother? So that also was something I dealt with over the years. So I would call the school. The school was not very helpful to me. They gave me a hard time. My son was on the basketball team. I would follow what was going on. He was a good player for their team. But I get his report card, and he would be failing gym. I mean, how is that even possible? So I was the parent that would try to hold the school and everybody accountable for his grades in particular. My daughter was doing well, so I didn't have any issues or worries about her. But my son was obviously struggling. And I wanted to know if anyone was supporting him, because I'm a big advocate of education, you know. And so I felt like over time I became a nuisance to the school. And so they stopped supporting me. And then another thing I'll mention too is one of his teachers, I had like an interview over the phone with one of the teachers, and one of the teachers told me that she was concerned about my kids because they appeared to not be dressed very well. They didn't appear to be eating very well. And so she disclosed that information to me, and I contacted the child protective people, because what else was I supposed to do? I mean, you can't tell me something like that about my children and I not do anything about it. And I mean, I thought schools were mandatory reporters. She's telling me about it. Why haven't? And I told her, I said, you should report this. And so she didn't. And when I reported it, what happened is when they found out that I reported it, the school decided that they weren't going to give me any more information, and they started to be hostile towards me. So I eventually, so over time, I would, call. I've called Child Protective Services to find out if they could help me get access to my children. I just wanted to at least just speak with them, because I was concerned for their safety, their security. I didn't understand why he would not allow me to even speak with them. I was wondering, is he hiding something about the condition they were in? I just didn't know. I mean, ultimately I did know. I knew he was trying to punish me, but I wasn't just going to go away. That was just never going to happen. I'm trying to think, what else did I do? Oh, so I went through the Privacy Act of Canada, and I requested their school record. So I received their entire school record at one point, and that's how I got a phone number. And so the only phone number that the school had for them was his girlfriend's phone number. So that's the number I got. So as soon as I got that number, I called it. And of course, she answered the phone. I said, listen, I'd like to speak to my children. And she immediately hung up on me. And then they called the police. So the police contacted me. This was probably around 2010-ish, maybe. I think. I can't remember. Or no, it was later than that. Maybe 2012. So the police contacted me and told me, and I was really lucky and happy that I got somebody who had some common sense. He's like, listen, I got a call about you harassing these people. And when I listened to the story, I asked them specifically, I said, well, how is she supposed to speak to her children? Because I understood that they did not have a house phone, and the only phone they had was her phone. And the police officer told her, I don't think she's calling to harass you. I think she's calling to speak to her children. And he said this to her even before he spoke to me. So he knew. But what he did tell me at the time was that after speaking with him, what he understood was that this guy was not going to be a cooperative co-parent. And he felt really bad for me because he didn't see how I was going to be able to navigate that situation. He said, you might have to wait until your kids turn 18 when they're out of his control. I didn't really want to accept that, but that was around that time when I kind of slowed down from the constant, trying to be in their lives. I kind of slowed down a little bit about that time, because all of this was having a toll on me as well. And if I'm focused on this, I'm not focused on my daughter. I have had another child as well. So, all right, I'm almost done my walk. When I think about what I'm going to say next, I'll record some more. But thanks for listening. Any questions that you have, feel free to leave it in the comment section. Have a great day. So this is another part of the story that I wanted to share. If you were to ask my children about why they don't speak with me, the responses I have received over the years is that I abandoned them because I moved to the States. Well, first it was I abandoned them because I left their father, and then it was I abandoned them when I moved to the U.S. And then the second part is that I was harassing them. So everything that I was doing to see them, they perceived as harassment. And so that is another reason why they don't want anything to do with me, is because I was calling the child protective people. I've called the police a couple times. I called incessantly at one point when I had, at least his mother's, his mother, this is another thing. His mother was a very big participant in alienating me from my children, because when we were together, she didn't like me at all. So this was her way to get revenge on me once that court gave my ex my children. And so she was very much a part of keeping me away from them. One time when I called, she said, your children are fine. Why don't you just move on with your life? And I said, really? I said, I'm not you. Because apparently her story is that she left her kids in Jamaica and went to Canada and sent for her kids, I think, when they were almost adults. The only child that she actually raised was my ex, because he was born in Canada. But her other children, she left them in Jamaica and moved. So I wanted her to understand, I'm not you, lady. Okay, I'm not leaving my children. I make my children for you to have them. That's for damn sure. And I will never go away. And I don't want to curse during this recording here, but I said it to her, but probably wasn't as polite as I'm being here, because she had me messed up if she ever thought I was going to go away. I mean, I did eventually. Once they became adults, they haven't heard from me since. But yeah, when she said that to me, that's when I realized, they had no intent. And this family also, I'm not the first person they've done this to. They've done this to other people. But those people are dead now. So my ex's sister, when she separated from her partner, she wouldn't allow him to see his children. And I watched that man beg to see his kids, and he died of a heart attack not long after that whole thing was started for him. Maybe like 5 years into it, maybe, or less. Another lady in the family, she, it was his cousin's father. They separated, or whatever happened with the relationship. He wouldn't let the lady see her son, and the woman killed herself. So I knew about those things being in that family. So I already knew what they had in store for me. And I was never going to let that happen to me. I wasn't going to just let these people destroy me. I prayed for my kids. I wanted to make sure they knew I was always going to be somewhere in the background. I would never fully go away. But there were times where I had to take a break from the whole situation, or else I might have died. Maybe I almost did. I just started doing things to cope with the loss of my children. My kids were my world. Everything I did, because I was a young mother, and everything I did to become upwardly mobile, because my life could have had a whole nother trajectory being so young, a mother. But having my kids made me understand that I had to be a provider, I had to be an example for them, like so many things. So it just changed my life completely for the better. And so I just wasn't ever going to go away. And I still haven't. The story's still not over. It's still being written. But, I'm sharing because I know somebody else has to have gone through something similar, might have gone through something similar, and may need to hear somebody else's story. So, yeah, I think that's about all for today. If I had to do it over again, would I have done everything I did? Absolutely. I would have called as much as I called. I would have, even though those systems didn't help me, I still would have called them. I have no regrets. I wasn't going to let somebody steal my children because they were disgruntled. I was never going to let that happen. And the woman that he ended up with, who also aided and abetted him, keeping me from my children, I feel like her karma was watching what he did to me. And if she ever had a thought about leaving him, I know that she wondered if he would do the same thing to her. So, again, the story is still being written. I'm still here. All right. Have a great day, everyone.